So I've received the question, how should parents discern proper education for their children? I love this question. There's so much here. So let's at least get a start on it right now. I want to go right to the term education. And the tricky thing here is the term education, the way it's used now, is not the way that it was traditionally used. The way it was traditionally used had a richer and broader meaning. So I'm going to go to that richer and broader meaning. And so in a sense, I'm not going to be answering the question as it was asked. I'm pretty sure that the question, which is a great question, still in that narrow sense, I'm not going to answer it that way. But I think if I answer it in the broader way, we'll actually see something super important there that's the foundation, the necessary foundation for thinking about the question as it was asked, about education in the way that we normally refer to it now, which is really kind of more, how am I going to handle the schooling, the academic education of my children? So education in the richer sense it meant formation of the whole person. I know, sounds kind of trite, but there's something really huge here, formation of the whole person. The way that the Greeks, the ancients in general, saw education was rooted in an insight that, well, I say it's rooted in two insights. The first insight it's rooted in is a well-lived human life is incomparable. It's the most noble thing in the creative world around us. A well-lived human life is a masterpiece. The conviction that goes with that is there's so much that has to come together to form a person to be able to live such a life. There's kind of a symphony of influences that need to be integrated and harmonized and come together in the formation of human persons. So, you know, it's kind of like a peach tree. You know, this peach tree right here, which needs to be pruned, by the way, but it's just gloriously blooming, and I really should have pruned it a little sooner. So many things need to come together if I'm ever going to get the fruit that this tree would naturally bear. Human children are very much like that. The human flourishing is the natural fruit of what it is to be human. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't require much, especially of other human persons, to take care of them in a way that's analogous and so much richer than how we even take care of peach trees. So many things have to come together. I've put manure down here, I've got mulch down here, I've got to trim, and then I'm going to have to thin. I, as the kind of steward, the caretaker of this tree, need to be thinking about all that. So the conviction of the Greeks again was, so much has to be brought together. Well, parents are the main conductor of the symphony. At the center of being a parent is precisely this vocation, this astounding joy, honor, privilege, and challenge to be constantly discerning, constantly adjusting, constantly trying to understand better, revise. How are we going to be bringing together the symphony of influences to most enable, to most dispose our children to become fully human, to become themselves? And it's not that any particular thing or even the symphony of things will absolutely assure that the children will, quote, turn out in a certain way, but it's still our challenge, our joy, our place to be doing all we can, to be having those influences be as well adjusted as possible to bring about that full human flourishing, that person becoming a more complete human person. One principle that will be really helpful moving forward and thinking about this is two key aspects of human life: knowing and desiring. So when we look at our children, we should think especially in terms of how are we trying to influence, form, have the positive things come together to have our children grow in knowledge, to come to see reality as they should see it, including very much seeing themselves as they should see themselves. And then the other thing is, what are we doing to influence their desires? So many things come together that affect how a human person desires, what we want. Well, we need to be thinking about, especially in the education, formation of our children, what are we doing to try to have their desires be formed well? So those two things are going to be the foundation. It's a very helpful duo. They very much go together, and certain things we do will be forming them as regards both, forming, as it were, their worldview, and then also forming their hearts, their desires. I want to wrap up here by saying I think it's particularly critical then that we avoid a reduction, that we avoid missing what the deeper, richer sense of education is by conflating education in its real, rich, broad sense, by conflating that, almost confusing it, with mere academic formation and schooling. Academic schooling, academic formation, very important. It's not the central aspect of how we form our children. So we need to learn how to fit it in. Where does it go? And how to have it be part of the broader plan. So moving forward, what I'm going to do now, just because I love this question so much, I'm going to make a few more videos that will be just bring out some particular specific aspects of forming our children, how parents can have a approach to the proper education of their children in view of the big picture, including in it academic education.